All right, let's talk Oregon Ducks. Obviously, season did not end the way anyone expected or hoped for, but Dan Lanning and his crew are off to an incredible start this offseason. They're sliding under the radar, but they're doing something I think is unprecedented. Exciting news out of Eugene. But first, I'm Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, the Oregon Ducks disappointing into the season, but they've got to turn to 2025 like every single program at this point who's not playing national championship game. And even in a few days, those guys will have to focus on the future. They've got to figure out how to rebuild, retool this roster to go even deeper in the postseason in the future. They are in win now mode. We all understand that, but you also have to keep an eye on the future when it comes to recruiting. You got to juggle both aspects. You got to juggle win now moves like in the transfer portal and recruiting for long-term success. And let's talk about Oregon Ducks here with recruiting first. Let's pull up this image. And here, this is from 24/7 Sports. This is a list of the top programs in the country in terms of quality of recruit. If you see average over there, kind of on the right side of the image, that is the average score that a recruit has. So based on this graphic, Oregon is getting the highest quality players on average over any other program, whether it's Texas, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, LSU, Michigan, and everyone that falls after these guys. Oregon is getting the elite quality recruits, right? Quality over quantity sometimes. They're reloading with top flight talent. This is outstanding job to do a good job like this in recruiting, getting the best of the best quality work. Phenomenal job by Dan Lanning. But it goes even crazier when you go to our next image here. This is the transfer portal quality rankings here. Again, you can see Oregon number one, once again, with quality transfer portal additions in the country. This is unheard of, guys. We see this pretty common where during one off season, a team crushes it in recruiting. What happens? Transfer quality dips a little bit, right? You can only do so much. You only have so many resources, so many time, so much time, so many dollars, right? You can't throw everything at recruiting and then transfer is going to suffer a little bit. Or if you go heavy on the transfer portal, recruiting is going to suffer a little bit, right? It's the way with anything, right? You only have so much time, you only have so much resources. If you allocate a lot of effort into one, the other will suffer. That's just the way it works. Oregon is just completely breaking the mold here. They are getting the best quality recruits. They're getting the highest quality transfers at the same time. This is absolutely bonkers. This is absolutely incredible. I know a lot of people are kind of being quiet on Oregon with the way they played in the Rose Bowl. I understand it was a disappointing performance, but what we're seeing from Dan Lanning and his staff reloading for the short term transfer portal success, medium and long term recruiting dominance means the Ducks are going to be elite contender for not just next season, but for many, many years to come. Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on all of this. But first, Oregon fans, in the comment section below, of all the additions Oregon has made this offseason, whether it's in the transfer portal, whether it's through recruiting, who's the one guy you think will have the biggest immediate impact for the Ducks in 2025? Exciting five-star freshman, four-star freshman, three-star freshman, whatever it is, the exciting transfer, whoever. Who do you think will have the biggest impact day one for the Oregon Ducks? Put it in the comment section below. But Miles, what are your thoughts on this latest news out of Oregon?
You said it, Nick. This is unprecedented. It's really impressive that Oregon puts in the effort in both transfer portal and recruiting and is able to do both at a very high level. It's very hard to do something like this and be successful at it in multiple different ways. I just think that Oregon is showing a different level of being able to come out here and do, both things at the highest level. And it's not like we're talking about the quality of the commits and the transfers they're getting. That's very important. But sometimes maybe you can see something where, they got like three transfers in and they're all pretty good. And it's, average of the quality of the transfers is kicked up there a little bit. But no, overall rank of these classes together, where it combines the number of recruits you got, the quality of recruits you got together, and it has some sort of points ranking behind it. Oregon's doing really good overall. They've focused on quality, and they're number 4 overall combined. They're number 5 in recruiting, and they're number 11 in the transfer portal overall. This is just unprecedented. They put in the numbers, the work in the transfer portal, and still got a high average grade of their recruits, as well as getting guys through high school coming in. You have over 20 guys coming through the recruiting side of things. Then on top of that, they have 10 transfers coming into this school as well. Really great job by the Ducks. I think they're doing some really good work here. The average quality of the recruit is very impressive. The fact that they went out and got a high number of guys as well and was able to keep that average up is also very impressive to me. Like you said, not many teams in college football are able to do this. I think Oregon needs more credit for what they've done.
Yeah, one of the criticisms or sort of complaints is that, well, they got that Phil Knight money. They got an incredible NIL budget. And that's not untrue. But a lot of programs have incredible NIL budgets. Ohio State has a lot of money being flowed into it for that part. Texas has a huge amount of dollars, right? A lot of programs have an incredible amount of NIL. And despite this sort of competitive environment of massive spending, Oregon's just better at it than everybody else, right? You can be mad about the NIL world. You can be mad that Oregon has a lot of money. And I think those are very fair things, right? I'm not a huge fan of this new NIL transfer world deal either. I mean, I'm all for players getting paid. I think that's perfectly fine and reasonable. I just think the craziness and just the sort of there's no governing entity to figure out the best way to handle this. Money changing hands every offseason with these kids, I think is agents taking advantage of them, all that kind of stuff. I think that's a little wild. But look, Oregon's just better at it because if you look at these transfer and recruiting rankings across the board, they're better than Texas. They're better than Ohio State. They're better than Georgia, better than Alabama, Texas A&M, LSU, Miami, all these incredible NIL dollars allocated programs, whether it's a program like Miami that's all about using NIL for transfers, Oregon's better. Whether it's a program like Texas and Ohio State that focus more on maybe recruits for NIL, Oregon's better, right? It just doesn't matter. They're just better at it than everybody else. And I say it all the time, and it's something that people really don't get comfortable with because people want to talk about, the human side of the players and X's and O's. The team with the better players wins 99% of the time. There's a reason Alabama under Nick Saban were a dynasty, right? Year in and year out, they were always competing for national champions. Nick Saban was a great defensive mind. He had great coaches, undeniably so. But the reality is when they're going up against Auburn, LSU, Tennessee, Georgia, they had great coaches and great offensive and defensive minds too, right? Big time college football. The reality is they had better players. They recruited better. Oregon, they've got great coaches. They're going to go up against great coaches, though. We saw this, right? Big Ten has a lot of great coaches, obviously. But when you have better players in the long run, you will be more successful. That's exactly what Oregon is doing here. Dan Lanning kind of sliding under the radar. Once again, I don't know if it's a West Coast thing, but whatever it is, the Oregon Ducks are doing incredible things this offseason.